What was Elijah's challenge to the prophets of Baal, and what was the result of their efforts? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 1 Kings on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 20 to 29. Before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 20. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 1 Kings chapter 18, beginning verse 20. So Ahab sent for all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah said to all the people, and Elijah came to all the people and said, "How long will you falter between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him." But the people answered him not a word. Then Elijah said to the people, "I alone am left a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Therefore let them give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under it. And I will prepare the other bull, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under it. Then you will call on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, he is God." So all the people answered and said, "It is well spoken." Now Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose 1 bull for yourselves, and prepare it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your God, but put no fire under it." So they took the bull which was given them, and they prepared it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even till noon, saying, "O Baal, hear us." But there was no voice, no one answered. Then they leaped about the altar which they had made. For so it was at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, "Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is meditating, or he is busy, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is sleeping and must be awakened." So they cried aloud and cut themselves, as was their custom, with knives and lances, until the blood gushed out on them. And when midday was past, they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice. But there was no voice, no one answered, no one paid attention. The setting for this chapter, and the ones that surround it, is during the reign of Ahab, meaning that we're somewhere between 874 and 853 BC, with a likely date somewhere in the middle of Ahab's reign. Ahab was known as a wicked king, one who was worse than all the kings who came before him, which is saying something, for they were all very wicked. What seemingly marked the difference between his wickedness and theirs had to do with the kind of idolatry present in Israel. For much of their history thus far, since the days of Jeroboam, the Israelites worshipped idols meant to represent the true God of heaven, Jehovah. God didn't want to be worshipped with idols, for they were man-made and could not represent him. So that is why he didn't accept this worship. During the reign of Ahab, though, Jezebel, Ahab's wife, brought in the gods of the Phoenicians to worship too, including god Baal. Thus not only was Israel sinning by worshiping the true God with idols, they were also sinning by worshiping false gods as well. Thus they were breaking both the first and second commandment. And of course, with this idolatry came other perversions, which further angered God. As a result, God caused a drought to come upon the land that lasted over 3 years. It was pronounced by the word of the Lord spoken through Elijah. Elijah had said that it would not rain again until he spoke the words to command it so, by the power of God, of course. As we said, over 3 years have passed now, and the time has come for the drought to end. During this time Elijah had been a fugitive in Zarephath near Sidon, and upon his return told Ahab to gather the children of Israel at Mount Carmel, along with the prophets of Baal and Asherah. Mount Carmel is a mountain range on the west coast of Israel, highlighted now on the screen. It forms the southern border of the Jezreel Valley. The highest point on Mount Carmel is 550 meters, or 1,810 feet, but the traditional spot where the events that we read of today take place are a spot about 480 meters, or about 1,580 feet. This spot is chosen as likely so that those in Israel who came to watch could all see. When Israel came to Mount Carmel, Elijah began questioning them. "How long will you falter between 2 opinions, whether to serve Jehovah or whether to serve Baal?" He said, "If Baal is God, then follow him. But if Jehovah is God, follow him. don't try to sit on the fence. He goes on to say that he, meaning Elijah, is vastly outnumbered by the prophets of Baal, 450 to 1. But do numbers equal correctness? When Elijah said that I alone am left a prophet of the Lord, I do not believe Elijah is saying that there are no other prophets of Jehovah in all of Israel, for he had heard that there were. Rather that he was alone standing right there and then as Jehovah's prophet. In order to settle the question of who is God, Elijah presents the prophets of Baal a challenge. Both he and the prophets of Baal would offer their God a sacrifice of a bull. The prophets of Baal could choose which of the two bulls to offer, so that they could not accuse Elijah of somehow rigging the event. However, neither one of them would set the fire for the sacrifice. They would call on their God to do it. And the prophets of Baal agreed to this, chose the bull, and set up the sacrifice. They prayed to Baal, and nothing happened. They continued praying until noon, and nothing happened. They jumped up and down, cried aloud, and even cut themselves with knives until they bled, likely bartering with their God. But nothing happened. Elijah just stood there mocking all their efforts, for he knew Baal was not any god whatsoever. He mocked them with statements like, perhaps Baal is meditating and cannot hear you, or perhaps he is busy, which is a euphemism for relieving oneself. Perhaps Baal is on a journey or sleeping and must be awakened. The taunts are cutting, for they describe situations that man faces himself, but a god should not, for he is not physical but spiritual. This happened until the time of the evening sacrifice, showing us and the people how futile this god Baal was. What would happen when Elijah prayed to Jehovah? We'll find that out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 30 to 40, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.